All right, good evening. Welcome to the October meeting of the McCandless Environmental Advisory Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda tonight is welcome to our second new member here in 2 months. Welcome to Dawn Miller, who was just appointed by council this past month. Dawn, I want to say thank you and welcome. And we'll do a very brief kind of introduction as we go down through here, best we can do with our masks on. We did this last month. We'll do it again. We'll start down here and just briefly your name, how long you've been on the EAC and what your projects are and interests with the EAC.
Not a problem. Jeff Johnstone, August of 20, so just a little over a year. And I'm in charge of project manager for the EAC for I can't even think what I'm doing. What do I do? For the green space. Thank you. See, I haven't been here for 2 meetings, so I forgot what I do. Yeah, so we've done the grants and stuff for the trails, things like that are in effect right now, or we're working on those, and some of the other green space items that we have in the community. So as you'll hear in my reports coming up.
All right, thanks.
I'm Ken Olshouse. I've been on the committee since it started. Originally, I was doing the green space stuff with the Walsh Park Trail and stuff like that. Spent a lot of time this last year working on deer management, which isn't particularly part of the EAC. My background is forestry degree, and so I'm very involved in a lot of conservation issues, restoration of the American chestnut and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. My brother has a forestry degree.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, and right now I helped a little bit on a project on planting guide for the trees and for developers when they're planting and things like that. And other than that, right now I'm kind of waiting for something to do.
All right.
I'm sure that's a bad statement.
No, that's what you say. That's right. We have John back there too. John, you can introduce yourself as well.
I'm John Bajarski. I've worked at the town since 2016, and EAC is just one of the several things I do here, mostly concentrated on communications and such.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. I'm Judy Bishop. I'm the current chair of EAC. I've been on the committee for about 1.5 years. I'm a civil engineer by trade, but traffic, not necessarily environmental. So this has been a fun learning opportunity for me. And my involvement so far has been, as Ken just mentioned, finishing up a landscape planting guide that Planning Commission had asked for use by developers. So hopefully they come in and plant the right things when they build. I've also worked on some speaker series events.
Dave Minard, know each other from other activities, but been on the committee since its inception, the same as Ken. So he and I are both charter members, I guess you'd say. My background is civil environmental engineering. Done a lot of water and sewer design, treatment plants. The last 10 years or so, it's been combined sewer overflow work. My projects here on the EAC have basically been the litter and spring and fall cleanup events that we've started. I think we've done 7 or 8 of them now. So that keeps me very busy. It's not just a one-day event, but there's a lot of planning and organizing that goes into it, as we'll hear, and we do a little report on it. So welcome, Dawn. Glad you're here.
Yeah, hi, Dawn. I'm Tony Kurzman. My background is mechanical engineering. I'm a professor at Pitt now, so I'm a professor at Pitt. I teach classes in sustainability as well as mechanical engineering. So I have kind of a broad background in sustainability, but typically I'm more focused on the energy side of things. So I've been here a whopping, let's see, month and 5 days. So not that I'm counting, but yeah. So my work with with McCandless has been geared towards eco districts, solar electricity for the buildings and potentially for the sewer authority. And then also looking at energy efficiency in the buildings.
All right, we'll let you have a shot, Dawn.
Okay. So I'm Dawn Miller. I have no engineering background whatsoever. My background is all legal, which is useless in the realm of the EAC most likely. But what brought me to the EAC was probably the work that I do with the Pennsylvania, with Penn State's watershed program. So technically, I'm not a certified watershed steward yet. I'm still working on my certification. I'm close. But obviously, I live on Pine Creek where flooding is a big issue. So I have a passion there for, just hoping to protect do a little bit more to help protect the watersheds in our community and help do outreach and education about watersheds in our community. I'm also interested in helping with green space development. I live very close to Potter Park. I live right across from Vestal Trail. They're great resources for the town that I think a lot of people don't necessarily know about or that are, very much underutilized. And I would like to understand that a little bit better, as well as probably some other spaces. I'm not as familiar with Wall Park as I should be, but I'll get familiar with that area. And so, those are the factors that really sort of drove me to the EAC. And, Dave Minard. I help a lot with the litter cleanup, so his passion for the EAC was.
Right. We're really happy to have you. And I guess Shelley, if you would like to, we have Shelley on Zoom tonight.
Sorry, I wasn't talking to the Zoom camera.
Yeah.
I would just say, Dawn, we are so thankful to have you on the committee because I think you bring enthusiasm. I think you bring skill, especially with your, I think one of the things that is, and I speak from being the chair of the ad hoc stormwater subcommittee on council, that I think with your work on stormwater issues, that you bring a new skill to the EAC. And I'm very grateful that you are willing to step up and serve the community in this way. So welcome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And we're missing one member. Jonathan Bernstein is, hopefully he'll join us tonight. He's also, I guess he's been on about as long as Jeff, a little over a year, and has been working with Tony on sustainability projects with the EAC. So thanks everyone for the introductions. And I know you'll kind of get a feel, hopefully after the first meeting tonight, with what some of our major projects are that we've got going on right now, and start getting some ideas on where you can jump in, and we can talk more about that as we go along. All right, thank you. Next up is approval of the minutes from the September meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, submissions for the minutes? No? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve? Second?
I'll second.
Thanks. All in favor of approving the minutes from the September meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. All right, Darren, now you're up. I wish I could give a little introduction here. I know I had spoken with Stephanie Wine, and I believe Shelley had talked a little about Penn Environment and your efforts with single-use plastics right now. So, and I did send the talking points, I believe, out to everybody for a little update and look ahead at what you guys are doing. So with that, I'll go ahead and let you get started.
Awesome. I'm gonna start sharing my screen real quick. Give me 1 second. You'd think after all this time of remote work, I'd be much better at Zoom, but I still have the technology. So give me one moment. should be pulling up in 1 second. All right.
Oh, there we go.
Awesome. All right. So thank you all for having me tonight. It's great to be here. My name's Farron Savitz. I'm the conservation associate with Penn Environment. If you don't know us, we're a statewide grassroots environmental nonprofit. We believe that all Pennsylvanians should have clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and a safe and livable climate. I work on our conservation team, focused mainly on our zero waste work. And I do want to leave most of our time tonight for your questions. But I want to start by talking a bit about our zero waste program and the work we've been doing. So I think the best place to start is with the overall problem, which is we live in a throwaway society. And by that, I mean so much of what we use is made to be thrown out. And so much of what we throw out is plastic. All told, Americans generate about 35 million tons of plastic waste every year, and less than 10% of that ends up recycled. The rest goes to landfills, incinerators, or it ends up on our streets or in our waterways, in our environment. And so much of that waste that we generate is single use. Things like plastic bags, takeout containers, bottles, utensils, stuff that we use for just a few minutes and then gets thrown away. And the reality is there is no way. Plastic sits in our environment for hundreds of years, if not longer. It ends up as litter. I heard some of you are involved in litter cleanups, so you know all about this, but it's in our streets, it's in our streams, it's in landfills. And over time, it's going to break into smaller and smaller microplastics, which are being found everywhere. And actually, just last March, we published the results of a study we did where we tested 53 Pennsylvania rivers, lakes, and streams for these microplastics. And we found them in every single one, which just goes to show that single-use plastic is a problem for everyone. And it's a problem that doesn't go away. Plastic is in our air, it's in our food, it's in our water. We've all seen these images of wildlife choking on plastic. We've seen plastic in our lawns or parks, but plastic pollution is causing a bunch of other problems. It clogs storm drains, making heavy rainfall or flooding even worse. It gets tied up in recycling machinery and infrastructure, which can make the process cost prohibitive or even cause it to fail completely. And then there's emerging science that the plastic we consume is harming our health. It's estimated we consume about a credit card's worth of microplastics every week just from living our lives. And that plastic can contain hormone-disrupting chemicals that wildlife consume, that we consume, we drink it, we breathe it, we eat it, and that can cause a bunch of health problems. So at Penn Environment, we want to tackle the problem not by dealing with the waste through things like recycling or cleanups, but from the other end, by stopping the pollution at the source. If we don't use the single-use plastics, if we don't even make them, then they never become waste and can't harm our environment or our health. And one of the most effective ways to accomplish this is by passing bans on some of the most prevalent single-use plastics, like shopping bags or styrofoam takeout containers. And we've had some success here. Back in 2019, we helped pass one of the first plastic bag bans in Pennsylvania in Westchester Borough, which is in Southeast PA. That same year, we also passed a plastic bag ban in Philadelphia. And then just 2 weeks ago, we released a letter of support of over 100 businesses and community groups next door in Pittsburgh, supporting a plastic bag ban there and showing real public support for the city to take action. But there have also been a few roadblocks. A few years back, a state senator attempted to pass a preemption law, a ban on local bans. And although the governor vetoed it, it passed as part of the state's budget. It got extended again in 2020. But last March, we helped Philly and Pittsburgh, along with some other municipalities, put together a lawsuit challenging this preemption. And the legal challenge, along with other action, helped put pressure on the state legislature, and they decided not to extend the ban on local plastic bans during their last budget cycle. So this preemption is set to expire in December, and it gives a great window of opportunity for boroughs and townships and cities to pass their own legislation. And we know that the best way to stop preemption from coming back and being reinstated is to have as many municipalities as possible take action. We also know that the best way to get the state legislature to take action and pass a statewide ban, which is the ultimate goal, is to pass as many of these local ordinances as possible. So what are we specifically proposing? I think Judy sent around a model ordinance that we've put together, but I'd like to go over a few of the key points included in it, things that we think are important for a good plastic bag ban. We put our model ordinance together using language from all across the country. A benefit of Pennsylvania being a bit behind everywhere else when it comes to fighting single-use plastic is that we get to see what works and what doesn't work everywhere else. So a few key points to highlight. The definition of plastic bags. Elsewhere, plastic bag bans have defined bags by weight. So thinner plastic bags are banned and thicker, supposedly reusable plastic bags are allowed. But what we've seen is that this results in more plastic in the environment, since people just use those thicker bags once and then throw them away. And they use them just as frequently as the thin, so you just end up with more bags, or the same amount of bags, but more plastic, because you use more plastic in the thicker ones. So we adopted some language that Philadelphia used, which is to define bags through a blown film extrusion process. It's a very strong definition, which uses the manufacturing process of the bags to catch all single-use plastic bags, regardless of thickness. Because it is important to stop those thicker bags that people claim are reusable, but are really just used once. A second key point there is a fee. A small fee, somewhere between like 10 and 15 cents. We recommend 15, but 10 is the minimum for what it takes for the fee to be effective, is crucial for a plastic bag ban. Getting rid of plastic is our main goal, but we also want to see people use fewer bags of any type and bring their own reusable bags. Things like paper bags may not be as bad as plastic, but they have their own material costs and environmental footprint. And studies have shown that when we put a small fee, like a 10 or 15 cent fee on, it can get people to change their behavior and bring their own bag. And if we're going to move away from a throwaway society and encourage people to use reusable alternatives, that's a crucial transition to make. And then finally, what I want to point out is who we think a ban should apply to. We want our ordinance to apply to a broad range of retailers, so not just grocery stores or big chains, but corner stores, gas stations, clothing stores, food trucks, delivery apps, and more, because there are so many different businesses that use single-use plastic bags. And we have such an easy alternative, both in single-use paper bags, but also reusable bags, that we don't need these plastic bags. So the more places we can get to eliminate plastic bags, get people to use reusables, the easier it is to transition to a zero waste future. There are other provisions in the ordinance I can go over, but I do want to be conscious of our time. So I'd just love to open it up for your questions.
All right, thank you very much, Farron. He's been talking about the ordinance. I'm not sure everybody got that draft ordinance. Because what it was a link in his email. It wasn't an attachment. So that was probably my fault. Dave, you may have gotten that, but it's a very well written, it's multiple pages, sample ordinance, and it does take care of all the little loopholes that they're finding out from other states and municipalities that have passed. I'm sorry, I'll make sure everybody gets that as soon as the meeting is over. I guess my first question, Farron, is, I mean, this is all great, and I think it's something that needs to happen. What, just knowing how our town has responded to some of these environmentally based ordinances, whether or not that's something that would be accepted by our town council or not, I'm not sure. Are there other, if we follow through with trying to get this ordinance or resolution or something like that passed for banning the plastic use, if we can't get that far, is there anything we can do in the meantime while we're trying to move our way there?
Yeah. So obviously a ban on plastic bags or other types of single-use plastic is the ultimate goal, because it actually gets rid of that plastic. But there are other ways that you guys could help or make an impact. So a big one would be a resolution calling on the state legislature to take action. So if a plastic bag ban isn't something you all think McCandless would be able to pass, A resolution is a bit of a smaller lift where you could pass just a simple statement from the council saying, we urge our elected representatives in the General Assembly to pass a statewide plastic bag ban. Because again, ultimately, we do want a plastic bag ban to apply everywhere in Pennsylvania, a single unified policy to eliminate all these plastic bags. So getting the state legislature to take action is important. So that's a step, and I do have a sample resolution I could send you.
That'd be
that has
great.
language on that. And then another thing that could be useful is, I know education is super important. So letting people know about what plastic isn't recyclable, because I know a lot of plastic, even if they have those little numbers and the arrows, aren't actually recyclable. Or letting people know what the township collects, if you guys do collection, or where they can dump their own waste in terms of facilities, and also ways to just reduce your waste. So encouraging people to bring your own bags or use reusable coffee cups or water bottles wherever possible. Education is a huge part of it. And a lot of municipalities start with that before moving on to like more legislative action. So again, the legislative action is the best possible thing.
Right. Open for other questions.
I know we don't have the document in front of us, but you know, one of the questions, would you be able to kind of give us a brief overview of what a policy would look like? Is it, I mean, I guess I'm having a hard time envisioning, is it just a complete ban on plastic bags in the community? It seems like that's too broad.
Yeah, so let's see if I can go back a slide. These here on the screen are things I pulled from our model ordinance. So it's a ban on single-use plastic bags at retail locations. So what that means is a retailer, everyone from a grocery store to a clothing store to a corner store, instead of giving you a plastic bag at checkout, they'd have to give you a paper bag for a 15-cent fee. Or if you bring your own bag, you can use that for no fee. And so to eliminate these checkout bags, there are exemptions. So, and we include those in the ordinance, where things like the bags at a deli counter or the individual plastic that wraps meat or fish are exempted. I think bags at pet stores, the bags they use to carry fish or other living animals are exempted. There are exemptions for plastic used to package bulk products. So like sometimes there are those containers of nuts or dried fruit at a store, and then you can fill your own container with them. I believe those bags are exempted in the model as well.
And then how do you go about, I guess, how do you go about policing that? Is there a fine associated with organization that would be using plastic bags or continue to use plastic bags?
Yeah, so enforcement varies based on municipality. Our model includes a tiered escalating fine system where for a first offense, they'd be charged a fine of, I think it's $50. For a second offense, it's $100. And then for a third and so on, I think it might be $200. So that way, the first time it's more like a warning, and then the penalties get steeper and steeper as they keep making infringements. Part of enforcement is the fee provision. What we've seen elsewhere, like in Philadelphia, is that retailers are on board with a small fee because they get to keep that fee on every single-use bag used. So if they're collecting a fee for paper bags, they're going to be sort of enforcing it themselves. Because they want to collect that fee too. One thing we've also seen is that retailers sort of see this, especially chain ones, see this as something that is just sort of where the wind is blowing. Like Giant Eagle has made a lot of commitments to go reduce their plastic usage in all their stores because they have locations outside of Pennsylvania who are under plastic bag bans. So they've been voluntarily cutting back on single-use bags and are going to phase them out entirely. I can't remember the exact date, but they have a plan for that.
2025, I believe. Is that right, Sherry?
That's correct.
Simple question. Why do you want to charge to use a paper bag?
Because the goal is ultimately to use reusable bags. Because paper bags have a material cost to make. It takes paper, it takes water, it takes energy, and then you also have to get rid of them in the end. And a lot go to landfills. And although paper bags are easier to recycle and the material cost is not as harmful to our environment as for a plastic bag, they are still single use. And the best thing for our environment is to have a reusable, something that doesn't have to be made every time you want a new one, something that doesn't have to be dealt with as waste every time you're done with it, something that you can just use over and over and over again. Because that way you cut down on the material cost and you cut down on the waste cost.
I would disagree with that because of the sanitary issue of reusing, reusable bags. You get some blood that leaks out of meat or something like that. I think that in some instances, paper is recyclable, trees are renewable. I have a little bit of difficulty with charging for that.
Yeah.
If I could, just because if any of you don't know, I used to be an executive at Giant Eagle and I was the chief sustainability officer. And I agree with what Ken has just said to a point. He is correct. He is correct. But I would also say that from the retailer's perspective, which I can offer, is that the cheapest way of handling groceries is the thinnest possible single-use plastic bag in the universe. And paper is, yes, it's renewable, but paper costs more. And if the goal is to if the goal is to save the environment, I would have to say that one, that plastic needs to go, that I really don't want more trees cut down for paper for that use. There's lots of other great uses for lumber and wood, and that the only way to get retailers, especially national retailers, regional retailers on board, is to make it into at least a break-even proposition. If not, which will get them really excited, if they can make a couple of cents on getting on board to ban plastics and to charge for paper. So I'm just giving that as a background of my own and how we assessed it, and we looked at this a lot. And so I don't know if that's a valuable piece of information, but that's what I have to offer.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Well, there's also the possibility for the retailer to sell cloth or let's say reusable bags also, right? And
yes, and yes, you are totally correct. And because of what I did, part of my job was sustainability, is that I am not telling you that I was satisfied with the efforts that my company was willing to take at the time, but we did. We tried to price those reusable bags at a very low price, break even, maybe even less than break even, trying to really push forward this idea of using reusable bags. Although, by the way, I will say, I want to say to Ken too, you are also right, because that is one of the concerns about reusable bags, is that how people use them. You cannot use them safely if you do not take care in washing them, cleaning them, disposing of them when they've been exposed to like chicken stuff and everything. But again, I would say that it's a matter of getting the retailers motivated enough to help you in creating a program that both points out the things like Ken has pointed out, like, reusable bags are only a great solution as long as people are aware of the, how to manage that. And that paper is, paper has an impact on our environment as well. And that they just want to get on board, and they almost might have more control over this issue in many ways than the legislature. I mean, the legislature is hearing from lobbyists from all parts of, everybody. But, I just think that getting the retailers on board is a key component, which will ultimately lead to legislative changes. If you can't get them on board and get them to get programs and motivated to have programs, then I'm not sure that we're ever going to get there.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what we've been doing with Penn Environment. So like with Philly's plastic bag ban, we worked with a lot of the retailers in the city. With Pittsburgh, I mentioned that letter we released 2 weeks ago. We reached out to a ton of businesses, both chains, not small businesses, all of them, to see what they felt about a plastic bag ban. And we got 100 signatures on a letter of support because there was a ton of support for a plastic bag ban. Right now in Philadelphia, there isn't a fee component. We're working on adding it as an amendment to the bill, which retailers are supporting. But I know that Philly's plastic bag ban went into effect October 1st, and Wawa was handing out reusable bags to help people adjust. Other chains were doing similar things. And I've also heard that Wawa has been talking with the state legislature about a statewide ban, though I think the political reality is we're not going to get that this session. It might be a few more years before that becomes reality.
Got a couple quick questions. Has any other municipality in Western PA done a resolution or an ordinance? Or would we be the first?
I'd have to look up the resolution part. So I know we've collected a few from around the state. We also collected a bunch of resolutions regarding the preemption when it was renewed back in 2020. Over a dozen municipalities wrote resolutions asking the state legislature not to renew it. In terms of ordinances, you would be the first to pass a plastic bag ban in the western part of the state. So far, they've all been in eastern Pennsylvania, though Pittsburgh this summer passed Pittsburgh passed a resolution this past summer saying that they were going to pass a plastic bag ban. And we expect that to happen probably before the end of the year.
Second question is, I can recycle plastic bags at Giant Eagle, at Lowe's, at Trader Joe's, at Whole Foods. Why ban them if I can recycle them, or what happens to the recycled bags?
So that's a multi-part answer, I guess. It does vary by retailer what they do with those plastic bags they collect. They don't always end up being recycled, since you need specialized equipment to actually recycle plastic bags, and that's not available everywhere. So a lot of times those plastic bags end up going to a landfill or an incinerator instead, but it does vary based on location. Shelley, you might be able to talk more about what Giant Eagle has done. But part of the problem is also that recycling as a system is a bit flawed, where there has to be a market for the recycled plastic after it has been sorted, processed, and then recycled and turned into something new. And it's very cheap to make new plastic. So that new plastic always outcompetes the recycled plastic on the market. So there's not really an economic will to take that recycled product. And so there's a lot of material that should be getting recycled that doesn't. And then it gets diverted to a landfill or an incinerator. And historically, a lot of that got shipped overseas to China, but they stopped accepting that, I think, back in 2015. And so there's just been a huge pileup, I guess, in our recycling system here.
I think to add, I think in some of the materials you gave us, you also stated that plastic bags are the main contaminant in the other recycling streams, correct? And they get tangled in the equipment. They really mess with the value of other recycled materials.
Yeah, with equipment at most recycling facilities that can't handle plastic bags, when plastic bags get added to the load of plastic, it clogs machinery, which takes time and money to unclog. And a lot of times it'll just cause an entire load to be invalidated. And so it'll be sent to a landfill or an incinerator. And also some of it will end up in our environment.
Last question is, mentioned earlier that we pick up litter. We've been picking up litter in McCandless for 4 or 5 years now. Just this past weekend, I was out for 5 hours picking up litter. If I pick up 5 plastic bags, I pick up 50 to 75 plastic bottles. It's that dramatic. Now, is it the fact that the plastic bag, if it's like a year old or something, it kind of tears apart and goes into, thousands of pieces, whereas the plastic bottle just kind of stays as a bottle? Or why isn't there the same fervor or whatever for plastic bottles? I mean, or like a bottle bill or something like that other states have, or is that kind of the next step, is, a fee on plastic bottles and plastic bottles, aluminum cans, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so part of it is probably that plastic bags, because they're so thin, break into microplastics faster than a bottle would. But part of it is also, we are working on a bottle bill in Pennsylvania. We have a bottle deposit bill. We had one in the last session. We had one proposed this session. It's not super likely that it'll pass this session, just based on the politics of the legislature. And it's harder to do a municipality by municipality bottle deposit bill. But we're part of a national organization. We're affiliated with Environment America and a bunch of other state groups. So our partners helped pass bottle deposit bills in Massachusetts, in Connecticut, in Maine, all across the country. So it's an issue we've done a ton of work on, and it's certainly an effective policy solution. But a plastic bag ban is something that a municipality has just, I think, a bit more control over. And it's easier for a township, a borough, a city to implement.
I just had a quick comment about I just actually went over this with some students. We were talking about life cycle assessment. And if you look at the life cycle assessment of plastic, so low density polyethylene versus paper bags, the energy consumption used to make the paper is about 4 to 1 more, actually. You wouldn't think so, but the paper bags use about 4 times the amount of energy. They use about 20 times the amount of fresh water and produce about double the greenhouse gas emissions per bag. And I think part of that is processing, but a lot of that has to do with transportation and things, right? Because paper bags are much heavier than the plastic bags. But so just something to consider. I know that paper is kind of option 2, and it's definitely renewable. That's definitely true. Like Ken had mentioned earlier. But I think in the whole scheme of things, the environmental impacts of paper are definitely not better than plastic, minus the I guess the non-recyclability of the plastics. My other question for you, this is kind of maybe a tough one to answer, but have you seen any pushback in communities that have put this policy in place? Do you see businesses are happy with it, or are there, I guess, any negatives there that you've seen in the past?
For the second question first, I haven't seen that much pushback. Actually, there have been some questions in terms of the rollouts from various communities about how it would affect them, what changes they have to make with the disabled community. Will they still be able to use bags that they can handle? But generally, they've been handled well. both Philadelphia and Westchester have great setups on their website with frequently asked questions, letting retailers and people know about the changes coming. They've provided a lot of communication and outreach. I know other municipalities considering the ordinance have done a lot of outreach ahead of time, surveying their residents, seeing if people by and large are on board. Narberth, who passed the first plastic bag ban, I haven't really heard much pushback from them. Obviously, around the country with these things, you do see some pushback, but generally it's a well-supported policy action. And as to the energy cost, I included some resources in the talking points document, but there have been some studies in the past, I know, that were funded by industry or a bit older that do say paper takes more energy and water. And I don't know what you might have newer research than I do, but since then there have been a lot of studies that show actually plastic does have a lot more of a cost than we previously thought. Or with the switch from using petroleum to using natural gas, that has its own added factor in the energy cost of making plastic product. It's a factor in the pipelines to transport stuff, turning the gas into a fuel that can then be turned into plastic. And then you also have, as you mentioned, the end of life, where paper is more easily recycled, easier to deal with, and plastic just keeps turning into smaller and smaller pieces of plastic, which I know isn't part of the energy and water cost, but is its own thing we have to consider.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the study was from 2015, the Chemical Engineering Society. So there might be a little bias there with the chemical engineering.
I'll have to take a look at it though to make sure I have everything straight.
Yeah, thank you for answering that.
Are plastic bags generally made in the USA, or are they made in China and imported here?
I don't actually know the answer to that. I know a lot of plastic products are made in the US because natural gas is so plentiful and cheap that it's very cheap to make new plastic out of it. And then we ship a lot of that, either the gas overseas or the raw plastic overseas or the plastic products overseas. So I think a lot of it is made here, but I don't have a definite numbers answer for you on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right about that. In fact, the cracker down in Beaver Valley is going to be providing plenty of plastics for the area.
We have any other questions, comments? No,
Go
ahead.
I was just curious. So in the states that have, sorry, that's my dog. In the states that have actually passed more forward thinking, well, actually, I should say I grew up in New York State, and I think we had for a very, very long time, you bought glass. I know glass bottles, were always had, a recyclable value. You drank a bottle of cola, you put it back in the box because it was worth 5 cents or whatever it was, and you took it back. And now we have a cottage in New York, and the same thing applies, but it's both plastic as well as glass. And next to it is the opportunity to take all of, just like you can do at Giant Eagle today, by the way. There's a place for you to take your plastic bags, your dry cleaner bags, all your single-use plastics, and put them in there. But is there any studies or any really documented positive evidence that those states who have really taken a more progressive view of this whole issue that are doing, if you buy a thing, if you want to get your 5 cents back or whatever it is, you recycle it. So it's a motivation to do it. And there's always lines at Wegmans in New York to, put things through their things. So is there any data that says these states who have done, like New York, who have statewide imposed these kinds of recycling requirements, that it's made a difference. That there's material, quantifiable data points that another state could use to say, oh my God, this is something we should be doing.
Yeah, I had a chat last year with some experts in the space on mainly bottle deposit bills. So you give
Yeah,
back a
right.
plastic bottle and you get that 15 or 10 cents back, whatever it is. And also some environmental people like me from states that do have them, states that are considering them, states that passed them a few decades ago and haven't updated them. And I don't have the studies at my fingertips, but I'm sure I could dig something up and send it to you about, yeah, when you have a fee that gets returned to you when you return your bottle, so it's sustainably handled afterwards, recycling rates increase. And the states with the highest rates of recycling for bottles, where the material is actually getting recycled, are states with bottle bills and deposit laws. And the ones that have the most comprehensive with the highest fees often see some of the highest rates of return. So there's certainly data out there. I just have to dig it up for you.
Yeah, I think that, and obviously, I think the EAC will have to have, the committee itself will have to have, probably at the next meeting, probably have a more in-depth discussion, but the EAC, of course, is only a recommending advisory committee to the town. And I think this is a good way to kind of close this, is for the EAC members to kind of put in context where, as a result of your presentation and all of it, thank you, by the way, you've been great. And the information, the links in the information you sent, and it sounds like we're going to get a little more information, but I think the EAC needs to consider this in the context of, because they can recommend to the town whatever they would like. It doesn't, obviously the town will do what the council decides to vote on, but it sounds like there's obviously your advocacy here tonight, primary one, especially in light of the kind of the time frame of the preemption expiration, would be, you would love, I'm sure, for McCandless to actually pass an ordinance banning single-use plastics. There's also I think there's a bunch of other things. And by the way, I'm sorry to say, but given the time frame and that if anything, there's no way that an ordinance would ever happen in McCandless by November on the preemption, an ordinance prior to the preemption expiration, just based on timing of when it would take to get to them. But there's also the resolution recommending not using plastic bags. But that and then there's another focus of a resolution that you actually stated, Baron, that was to a resolution more directed to the state legislature. I think it could also be in the form of a letter to the state legislature from the town, advocating for a, more of a statewide approach to this. And I bring this up to the EAC members simply because I think that there is, we are a municipality, we are not a county, we are obviously not the state. And McCandless historically, and I'm not speaking for all of council, by the way, I'm just stating what I think I've seen, is that McCandless in general has, they want to deal with community issues, and they are very careful, cautious about treading ground that they think is more in the bailiwick of the county or the state or the federal government. So I think that, and then there's a third layer that the EAC could consider, which is just in partnership with you guys, is to make it part of what the EAC already does, educational series, educating the community, advocating for these things in that way. And certainly, if nothing else, just reporting back to council that, about this issue and letting them know the kind of options that could be available to them if at that level they wanted to take action. So I'm not trying to close down the conversation if anyone has any other comments, but I'm trying to put it in context with what I think is the reality in the town of McCandless and what the EAC members should be mulling over in their minds for a future decision as to what next steps, if any, they would choose to take.
Yeah, and I sent some resources, which includes our talking points, our model, our research on microplastics, and I can send that again if that would be helpful to share those resources. I also put some of it up on the slide here along with my email. If people want to reach out with extra questions, I'd certainly be happy to answer them. And I've also made a note to send along that sample resolution language about statewide action and some research that I can find on bottle deposit laws. So yeah, and thank you everyone for having me. I'd be happy to answer more questions if there's time for it, or if not, feel free to email me with them.
I'm sorry, I said I was done, Baron, but I have one more question. This follows with what I just said about McCandless and what I've seen is their approach. What exactly is the status of the city of Pittsburgh single-use plastic ban?
Yeah, I don't know how much to say currently, but over the summer they passed a resolution saying that they would ban plastic bags. That allowed them to join the lawsuit that Penn Environment in Philadelphia sent against the state for preemption, with preemption ending in December. We've been working with a member of Pittsburgh City Council. They're drafting language on a plastic bag ban. Nothing has been introduced yet, but I believe they've been pretty public that they're going to ban plastic bags pretty soon.
Yeah, I just think this is a perfect example of, I do think that there is a reasonable likelihood if Pittsburgh, the big city of Pittsburgh, actually takes this action, that there will be a natural progression of regional and national retailers who operate in our area, including McCandless, who will decide to go this route. And also that it might give more motivation to McCandless, if Pittsburgh were to do this, to hop on board in some fashion, as I previously described. It could be in many forms. So thank you.
Yeah, and also as Pittsburgh moves forward, when they have language introduced, last I heard they were going with the ban fee hybrid, so banning plastic bags with a fee on paper. So I can certainly let the EAC know when they've introduced it, when it's coming up for a vote, all that sort of thing.
No, that would be great. All right. Thank you so much, Farron, for your presentation and all the information. I did re-forward those links to everybody, so you should have them now, so we can dig in and further discussion and see where we can go with this with the town. So thank you very much, and we'll be reaching back out if there's anything we can do together as a team, maybe as an educational benefit as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, you
Yeah,
too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baron.
All right, so there's a topic to continue discussions. Everyone, please just take a look at the materials. We'll see what information we can get and start thinking about what we really think we can do to have an impact in McCandless that we think town council will go for.
One for Dave with litter pickup. Are you getting significant amount of single, my perception is there's a lot of them. But are you actually getting a lot of single-use plastic bags?
Saturday and Sunday, we were out probably 10 bags total. Mostly all blue Giant Eagle bags.
Mhm.
Because I was at the interchange there at
Yeah, I saw you on McKnight.
McKnight and Ingomar. It's not a lot of bags, but if you're in an area that hasn't been picked up in a while, there's a bag like under the grass or on the grass, and you pick it up and it
It
just
falls apart.
falls apart.
It's hard to
into
pick them up because they disintegrate. So
They
it's not that
disintegrate,
they're
so-
not there.
easily.
Yeah, it's that they're not easily collectible.
So do all those little pieces somehow get into the
Mhm.
waterway
That's right.
That was my
somehow
second
or blow
question.
away or whatever?
Yeah.
Is I keep hearing microplastics.
Right.
My understanding of the chemistry of the plastic is it's not bioreactive. We could eat it all you want. All you're going to do is going to go out the other side. In the same form that it came in. It's not bioreactive. I keep hearing micro pellets and all that. And I sit there and go, well, it's not reactive, but it doesn't matter.
Well, I think each plastic is a little different. And again, this is a little out of my area, but I know, for instance, BPA, those bottles used to be made from BPA and they found some serious health issues with those. So I don't know what they're made from now, but they had to change that out. I think the conditions were under, like, if you had like warm water, some of that BPA would leach out into the water, you'd be drinking it, and it would make you sick over time. I think it led to higher cancer rates or something along those lines. There was something to do with sterility, I believe, also. But anyway, so yeah, so I think, we're obviously just talking about plastic bags, but the microplastics covers a whole gamut of different plastics, not just the low density polyethylene that's normally the plastic bags. But I think in general, I think you're right, Ken. I think in general, that kind of passes through usually. But yeah, I'd have to do a little more digging on that, but I know that there are correlations between certain plastics and health conditions.
Right, and I think basically it shouldn't be there. It's not a naturally occurring thing.
Yeah,
But that's a good point. We should know what it causes if we're
it's
gonna be banning it.
Yeah.
be part of our messaging.
He talked about a bottle bill also. The bottle bill can be a revenue source for the town or municipality, because you buy the bottle of Coke or something, you pay a nickel or a dime. If you don't take that bottle back, if you just throw it away, well, somebody's got a nickel or a dime. So it's maybe the retailer keeps a penny or something. The rest of it just goes to the the state or whoever. And so that can be money. It probably just goes into a general fund, but in Massachusetts, for instance, it was supposed to go into clean waterways and beaches and that kind of thing. So it can be a revenue source also.
And earmark it for sort of environmental concerns or something. like
Right,
that.
yeah.
Just as an aside, when I was younger, they used to have, when you buy a case of beer, they were returnable bottles that were
Right.
less expensive.
Yeah.
And the reason they stopped doing that is it was so expensive to take those bottles, clean them and make them suitable to
Yeah.
refill. And so it was a matter of economics that they stopped doing that.
Okay, well, I think we can kind of naturally here roll over into roadside cleanup. Jonathan is not going to be able to join us tonight, so we can move right into Dave's.
Yeah, I'll
roadside
just do
cleanup.
a quick update on the litter cleanup. The roadside litter pickup is this Saturday morning, 10 to noon. We've got somewhere in the 50 to 60 people signed up. I always say however many people we have, we could use twice as many, but we've got a good group, probably about 20 kids from the Key Club at North Allegheny. Cub Scout Pack Troop 279 has about 30 kids that are going to participate. The Boy and Girl Scouts have kind of opted out of this one. They were in the last one. We've made assignments for the areas, leader of each group. A new wrinkle we have this year is we've gone out and solicited donations of gift cards, gift certificates, that kind of thing for the participants. So we've got about 30 or so of those. So anyone that's participates is going to go into a drawing for some kind of a gift card or a prize or something like that. So that was just trying to do something
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
new this year to hopefully get some incentive for some people to sign up. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, once the
Not-
Key Club gets wind of that, they'll be knocking down our doors.
Yeah. So I did mention the EAC has an Adopt a Highway sign at the interchange, McKnight Ingomar interchange. That was picked up on Saturday and Sunday to try to get a head start on this coming weekend. We also picked up from the interchange McKnight up to the Giant Eagle, which I know Dawn has picked up that area before. And then we picked up from Arcadia up to the interchange, both northbound and southbound on McKnight Road. We got about 16 or 18 bags. That area was all picked up last spring, and you get a lot of trash.
You really do.
There's a lot of trash, and because you're near McKnight, the cars are going 50 miles an hour, the curves at the interchange, stuff blows out of the back of trucks. You get a lot of packing material, boxes, stuff from Lowe's is wrapped in plastic. I don't know if that's one of a single-use plastic or not, but you see that loaded on the back of a pickup truck with the plastic flying in the breeze, and that falls off. Cardboard, plastic, tarps. I don't know. I found a driver's license, shoes, toothpaste, tons of bottles and stuff. One area on the ramp onto Ingomar Road, probably in a stretch from the size of this table, there were probably 20 Mountain Dew bottles. So somebody's going there, and I don't know, every day or frequently just throwing their Mountain Dew bottle out the car window, or probably every night or something. So that was kind of interesting to try to figure out how some of this stuff got here. John has been awesome in terms of putting this together. We've got police and DPW support for some of the areas. We've tried to coordinate with the Adopt a Highway groups that are scheduled for they're scheduling their fall pickups. Couple of the political leaders, Representative Rob Mercuri, Senator Lindsay Mercuri and his either office staff or family, I'm not really sure, are going to be picking up again. Senator Lindsey Williams has someone in their office has a wedding, but they've been supportive in terms of advertising. They're going to post pictures. They donated some gift cards. Cindy Kirk from the Allegheny County Council is going to participate. So it's really cool that we got some of the local and state leaders to political leaders to participate. I think that's about it. It's not too late to sign up if you want. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, you can email me afterward, but I thought I was originally going to be out of town for this weekend, and I am not. So late in the day, if David, if you could, if there is some way or some place, give me direction. I'm happy to I'm happy to volunteer and be where you need me to be, or do what you need me to do, even if it's picking up stuff. I don't care. You can contact me offline. But I did not sign up earlier because I thought I was going to be gone, but I am not. So
Okay.
just let me know what I can do or where I can go.
What do you mean by late in the day?
Today, we made our decision yesterday that we had to delay our trip.
Your decision was made late in the day.
Yes.
Not
true.
that you're not, I'm thinking you're available Saturday late in the day, but that's not.
No, I'm available all day Saturdays, whatever
Okay.
you need me to do.
Okay.
All right, let me know. Let me know.
Something for you. Thanks.
And I'm assuming between you and John, you'll contact us all and let us know where we're meeting, what groups we're
That's
in, and that's
in the works.
Okay, that's good.
I have a
Thank you,
question.
David.
I know it probably would have been better asked weeks ago when you guys were actually planning this, but I know they had that junior council person. He had started the Instagram account. I don't know who's in charge of that now, if we have a new junior council person, but do we have somebody who can maybe come and take a bunch of pictures and post to the Instagram account? Because I think this is a great opportunity for us to do, outreach and messaging and put some material out on our social media sites.
John, that's a question.
Yeah, I mean, we're encouraging the groups to take their own photos while they're out,
Mhm.
Right.
but they can easily be uploaded to Facebook and Instagram. If not that day, that Monday.
Mhm. So we can feed those to you, John,
Yeah,
for uploading?
Mhm.
Okay.
Who's in charge of the Instagram account?
it's actually mostly Sandy Bauer, the manager's office, is doing Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Great, thanks, Dave.
Ooh,
Thanks, John.
especially we want to get those Key Club kids posted on the Insta site. If they could hashtag, didn't we hashtag last time or?
I know that we had pictures of them last spring.
Because if they're posting on their individual Instagrams
Mhm.
and putting it
Oh,
out there
okay,
and
yes.
hashtagging, yeah, it helps get the word out that we've done this.
Right. Right.
Mhm. Or linking back to our Instagram site, whatever. I don't know how that works really. I don't even know what hashtag is.
It's the name, but yeah, I don't know how to do that either.
It's like the thing.
We'll have to mention that to the kids, they'll know it.
Yeah, they know how to do it.
Okay, next up, Jeff, update on the Adam Butler property.
All right, first thing before that is someone asked about the grants. I haven't heard anything on those either yet at this point, so continue to try to find out, but I think it's more, they're not going to notify me, they're probably going to notify the office or Bob, so I'm assuming that nothing has happened to that point, but I'll reach out to that as well. So we, Judy, Shelley and I talked briefly about Adam Butler, his property, and originally there was a group of us. Ken, you were there. Kim, Bob. Oh, I think you were there too, were you? Were you
No,
there?
but he's my neighbor and I'm the one. who
That's what I
told him to
thought,
call
yeah,
you
because
guys,
you were
so,
right there.
Yeah, I know all
Um,
about it.
So we did a tour of his property, kind of his vision. He sent out a video, so I'm assuming everyone, maybe for the exception of Don and Tony, because you guys are just new to us, had seen the video that he posted. So as the video was cool, like I explained to Judy and Shelley, when you're there, it didn't really bring the whole vision to play of what his vision was. And I still think that there's a lot of people that kind of miss some of that anyway. But long story short, him and I tried to reach out together to get together this week and just unable to do it. But I think because the activities committee of the township was involved originally too, they backed out for some other reasons and things like that, and cited some legal stuff and things that roughly, I think what their goal of backing out was they wanted something a little bit more short term, where I think the conversation that I'm going to have with Adam is we want to try to be even in the green spacing side and the EAC, kind of more of a vision of kind of building the relationship on a long-term basis, and then seeing how we can work together. I don't really know what he wants to do, if there's either it's with or without us. So that's a further conversation I think we need to have with him. So hopefully, if I get to meet with him in the next week or two, or at least have a Zoom call, we'll be able to kind of pin down what his vision is, and we can kind of, I think my idea would be to, assist or volunteer wise. And because if he wants to come into us and say, hey, we'd like you to do this and this and this and this and this on my property, I think that's where the activities commission or committee backed away. If he wants to donate his land for us to use, then that creates a whole different idea for us. So I really think meeting with him again to kind of pick his brain and see where he wants to go, what the vision is, short and long term, and then, how he wants to play into that is really going to make a difference at this point.
I do think that we shouldn't lose sight of, because I even think in our last meeting, it might have been you, Ken, who brought it up, rightfully so, about if you're talking about permanent, or you're talking about, community, or you're talking about completely like the town of McCandless involvement, that you do get into all those legalities of, insurance, control, do we want to spend money on it? But I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that we have what I think appears to me to be a very nice piece of property with a very nice landowner who wants to share it. Just don't lose sight of without getting into all of the nitty gritty of McCandless needing to own it, control it, put money into it. Is there even just something as simple as the EAC as a volunteer group, supporting, working with him to do, it could be as simple as a bee colony, like let's put in a bee colony, and he would allow people to come in and work on it as volunteers without the town having liability and so on. So I just don't want to take anything, the activities committee did in fact decide that, for various reasons, they didn't want anything more to do with this. But I think that we're left with a proposition of, is there anything that, even if it's more of an ad hoc kind of connection, participation with this landowner, that could be done, that would be a valuable addition to the community. So nothing is too small, I don't think, by the way. That's all I'm saying, Jeff. When you meet with him, I don't think that it needs to be that like you need to donate it to the town, because I don't know if the town really wants it donated to them and have the responsibility and the liability and the insurance and everything. But I think there's another proposition, is how could we take advantage of this great opportunity this property owner has provided to us, and just work with him in a volunteer sense, supportive sense, to make it into something that's valuable as green space. So, don't write off anything when you meet with him.
Oh, no, definitely not. I mean, so I was there with a tour, and it's a cool, neat kind of property, neat location, because it's, on Pine Creek, but it's across from where the Vestal Trail ends, as you well know. And then the road, I always forget the name of the dirt road, can't help me out, that goes up the water. Harmony Road, I thought, and then there's even what looked like an old short line train stop station that was kind of weathered and whatnot, but that would be kind of neat, even though that we figured out that was actually moved, but it still would be kind of cool. So there's some neat little aspects of property, and I think that's what made him come to us in the first place. So we definitely want to.
What's the I'm sorry, I'm a little, I don't know what's going on with this property. What's the size, and then you said you were applying for grant funding for that?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was different. So the grant funding is for the the Wall Park Trail
Oh,
that we applied for.
That's 62 acres.
Oh, okay.
That runs from Wall Park, Slip Road, all the way up to Harmony,
Oh, got it. Okay.
where the
And then this-
landfill is up on
Landfill at Harmony and Highland is the top end of it. The bottom end is where there's baseball fields and stuff down it.
Sloop and Rock.
Oh, got
Slip
it.
and Rock.
Okay. Oh,
Wall
okay.
Park.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that's what I was talking about in the beginning. I apologize.
The grants,
No,
right.
Because we had applied for grants for trail funding for
Can I,
that. So
can I jump in real quick? Just, so Adam lives across the street from me and he lives on Pine Creek Road and they have roughly 7 acres. And there's this section of their property that's just sort of like off by itself. It could easily be, it was a pasture is what it used to be. And so unless Adam's changed his mind based on when he and I talked about this, I think he's still a fairly open slate. And so while you want to get back to him and see what he envisioned for the property, I know that when I was talking to him about this, he was pretty wide open. And so I think we should think about how we would like to use the property, similar to what Shelley was saying. You know, I get it that those activities folks backed away because there are legalities and things like that, but having a community space for beekeeping or having the potential for maybe a community garden, or, you know, I know what Adam's goal is, and that is to basically create things that they can then film to make, so they need constant social media feeds, their production people. So he just wants to be able to, you know, put bugs and birds and things up on the site that so people click.
It's funny you mentioned, the first thing that popped in my head, and again, I didn't know the size of the location, but I thought community garden myself. Grow
Yeah.
Pittsburgh has had some really great successes around Pittsburgh. And just fairly recently, there's a whole area near the University of Pittsburgh, and the students love it. They've learned a lot about farming. They even have classes. They're teaching each other how to farm. And I don't know exactly where that plays in. You said his name was Adam.
Adam
I
Butler.
don't know where that plays into his vision, but
Well-
it sounds like that would be pretty neat.
Yeah, I think that unless he's changed his mind, that's something he was at least open to. And I know I used to live in Hickory Hills apartment complex many years ago. And when I lived there, one of the things that I hated was that I had no access to, you know, dirt that was my own. So, you know, I could totally see, even though the space isn't huge, I would think the residents of Hickory Hills, if no one else, would be interested in a community garden space over there. That's definitely how I would market it. But yeah, so I think Adam, while we want to pick his brain, I think, you know, we should also feel comfortable presenting him with some ideas as well. I think he'd be open to it.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Can or should Dawn be involved in
It's okay.
from now on the Adam Butler property, because it's, you know,
Is it a conflict of interest since I'm his neighbor?
Well, I mean, it may not hurt for you guys to communicate a little bit, maybe on some of the ideas that, you know, maybe some conversations you have with them. There are some ideas there that didn't quite make it to, you know, to your meetings.
Yeah, sure. No, that's
A
fine.
little collaboration there certainly couldn't hurt.
You know, when Adam and I were just spitballing about it, it was just he and I, two neighbors spitballing
Right,
about, you know, and then he was in front of you guys, so he may have been a little more reserved.
right.
But yeah, I know he's I think he would be open to suggestions, is what I'm saying.
So
You can dream it.
did you answer the size of his property?
It's
was-
about 7 acres or 9
Oh, so-
acres. It's one or the other.
Okay,
Oh, that's actually a lot bigger than I'm envisioning. Yeah.
But it's on Pine Creek Road and it's along the roadside. So he basically owns this long skinny piece of land that butts up against Harmony Road right across from Oak Ridge, that hillside there.
The prior owner, when we were talking about connecting the parks with trails and things like that, the prior owner would not allow any access through there. And so Adam just bought that, 2 years ago?
Yeah, last
And
October, I think.
So that was one of the issues, was you couldn't connect the
Oh,
parks
nice.
because of private landowner not allowing egress.
Oh, how about that?
See, that's something that I would be in the trail side of it, as we Ken and I talked before about trying to, we started at Wall, the next one was going to Potter, and then, of course, when we did the trail walk at Vestal, and then you go to that Butler property, you kind of see where those
Yeah.
two, and then his property kind of sits right in the middle, right off the road.
And then connect it on up to Potter Park,
Potter, correct,
you know?
yeah, so that would be a neat little,
And then
Vision.
from Vestal trying to connect into onto the Harmony Trail and stuff like that too.
But I've heard that that is now privately owned land and you can't really walk on it and you will get a gun pulled on you if you try.
It's-
So,
it's- The trail people are working on that.
oh, good, good, good.
I mean, that's, every time I have a conversation with them, it's at a different level of things, so
Good.
it's a big thing to allow just people you don't know to trespass.
Yeah. When you're not used to seeing strangers in your backyard, like it can be very scary.
If they would stay in the trail, it would be fine.
But then I had people in my backyard with guns a couple years ago that were hunting and like, I guess that was just totally allowed. Nobody asked permission. They're
that's
just like
totally
walking with guns through my yard. I was like, I have dogs and children. Is anyone
Call the
gonna
game- if somebody
knock on my
does-
door?
Somebody's in your backyard with a gun in that area, call the game commission. They're within a safety zone. They're illegal.
I thought so, but what do I know? So I didn't. I went out and said, aren't you after permission? And they said, can we hunt on you? And I said, I'd rather you didn't.
But they're holding the guns.
But they laughed. It was fun. Anyway,
Okay, all right. Moving on then to solar energy program update. Tony, I guess we give a summary of our conversations with Bob Grimm and
Yeah, so we met on October 5th and we were talking about the potential for solar on the buildings here. He had shared some electricity information with me. And so the size of the system, just kind of, let's say back of the envelope estimates, we're right around 200 kilowatts would take care of all the electricity for, I think it was the municipal building and what's the building next door?
The maintenance.
DPW.
Yeah, the maintenance, that's right, yes, yeah, so, so I think that would, those would just be those accounts. But when we looked further, the electricity accounts were more like a 900 kilowatt type system. So, so obviously much, maybe 4 times bigger or so, or 3 times bigger. So what I reached out to my friend and said, hey, is 200 kilowatts even doable for a developer? And he said it's borderline, at least for him. So I'm not saying somebody might take that on, I don't know. So anyway, I went back to Bob and said, if we can try to put all the counts together, then we have more of an opportunity to get other developers, I think, interested. So Bob sent me some information. In fact, I have to get back to him. I didn't get all of the 900 kilowatt information for all the electricity, but that would include MTSA, or the sewer authority. So he reached out to Bill Youngblood, who I guess is he the director of MTSA?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see a nod over there. Yeah. So he reached out to Bill to see if they'd be interested in sort of putting all these sort of electricity accounts together. And I think that would be the best option. I think it would lead to the best returns and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I'm waiting to hear back from Bill. I think we're planning to set up some sort of a meeting towards the end of the month, was the last email I received. So I actually haven't heard anything back since then. But that's the solar side. I did reach out to, I think, did we talk about that in this meeting, or about Fox Chapel just recently adding a solar array? I think it's 127 kilowatt size.
Okay, I'm not sure if we did it this meeting or not.
There was some emails about that last week and
Yeah.
everything. And
Right, right.
the biggest thing that shocked me there is they were happy with the 16-year payback. It's like private industry, it's 5 to 7 years, 16 years is an awful long time for a payback.
Well, you remember we talked about one of the issues with when a municipality pays for things, they don't get the tax benefits and they don't get the depreciation benefits. So essentially they paid, let's say, twice as much as if they were, which is ridiculous, twice as much as if they were like a for-profit company. Again, this is the issues, I guess, with our tax codes or whatever it is, incentives are always geared towards profit companies, but so 16 years, you're right, that is quite a bit. I actually talked to, his name was Harrison Lauer, and he said that they purchased it with some funds through, I think it was the Recovery Act or something like that. So they got some federal funds, and they were able to use a portion of that money for the solar array. So that actually worked out in their favor, although you're right, returns of 16 years is not pretty. But one of the things I had mentioned to him, because I said, are these federal funds available for us? Because I'd like to apply. And so he said, no, they were part of kind of the COVID situation. But one of the things he did mention, I asked him, well, how does your community feel about it? And he said he's so far he's had nothing but positive feedback. So that's good news, I guess, on the solar front. But yeah, well, I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't get a whole lot more information from him. From what I could tell, just they paid quite a bit per watt. Also, that I think the price of their system wasn't a little on the high side, at least in my opinion. So anyway, but yeah, they have a setup there. Their solar array is I think it's now installed now, 127 kilowatt, and I think they paid about $255 a watt. So anyway, on our front, I'm just waiting to hear back from MTSA, meet with them to try and take a look at the total electricity consumption, and if we can incorporate that. From there, we'll have to reach out to start looking if we want to put together an RFP or next steps. So I'll try and gather all that information. I don't know if it'll be my next meeting or not, but I'll try my best to gather enough so we can start to make a decision or help Bob make a decision. On the any questions about the solar stuff?
I do.
Yeah.
I do, Tony. Just make sure that, like, when I think about the electric, because and you have to figure this out with Bob, but that I don't know really what it means when he says he gave you what sounds like the town hall and the maintenance building information. Because in addition to that is, remember that Devlin Park is adjacent and it has those huge, and by the way, they've never been modified to LED. All of those stadium lights that are on the ball field adjacent to town hall in Devlin Park. So I would ask that you verify that is the Devlin Park, field and associated lighting that is by the pavilion. And I mean, it's not like we have night lit tennis courts or anything, but there's lighting back there. And I would say, as well as the Heritage Center, which is, up the hill from Town Hall on Ingomar Road. So I'm actually surprised to hear that the electric usage that was estimated to you was only 200 kilowatts, because with stadium, very expensive, high-level stadium lighting combined with normal lighting, like in Town Hall, which has been converted to LED. And I don't know if the maintenance building has been converted completely or not. I don't know. But let's just make sure that when we're talking about the electric usage for kind of the town hall thing, and MTSA is great too. Yeah, I mean, add it in, but that it also make sure it includes the kind of ancillary uses, like the Heritage Center, like the the field lighting. And I say this because it came up at, any of you can see it on video, but it came up at the town council meeting this past Monday. And we debated it, and ultimately we did not approve that use. We modified it to another use, but there was a proposal to seek a grant of $450,000 to replace the lighting on the Devlin Field. And that, if it costs $450,000 to replace the lighting on an athletic field, that there's a lot of electricity being used there. So anyway, you're the expert, I'm not, but I'm pointing that out to you to make sure that when you're helping to make this assessment, that it's more all-inclusive.
Yeah, that we include all of the electricity consumption.
Kind of, yeah, kind of.
Just to be clear, the 200 kilowatts would have been, maybe I didn't say that very clearly, the size of solar array that would be necessary to cover the electricity consumption for, and again, that was just sort of this building. And so that was the initial electricity consumption data. So this building and Public Works. So yeah, so I'm actually still waiting on the full list of the electricity consumption. So when I get that, I'll take a look and make sure that some of those items.
All right, well, let me know if I need to. I'm happy to intervene and push on that issue if you're not getting it. Just let me know. We can do that offline.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Shelley. Yeah, so that was what I have on the solar project. The other thing kind of associated with that is we were looking at the energy efficiency of the building. And I guess Tower Engineering had done a report for HVAC in-kind units. So I reached out to Infinity as a company that specializes in efficiency, energy efficiency. And I know them pretty well. So I reached out to them and said, hey, could you take a look at this? So right now, Bob has, Infinity had reached out and discussed with Bob, I think yesterday, I think they had a meeting. I wasn't in the meeting, so I don't know all the details on there, but it sounds like there's some potential for improvements that will reduce energy consumption and save significant dollars compared to the sort of just in-kind replacements of the HVAC system. So hopefully that works out. I'm in touch with both Bob now and Sean is the gentleman from Infinity. So I've been kind of reaching out back and forth to them to kind of keep up to date.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Yeah, that's all. I have there. Yeah,
That's
sure.
great. Thank you. Moving on, next item, landscape planting guide update. The planting guide has been finalized. It's been through town council, I guess, voted, head nod, whatever it was they did, Shelley, at the meeting on Monday night, that they basically approved it and sent it on to planning commission. And there was some talk of even maybe putting it in the calendar for next year. So thanks for everyone's help reviewing, Ken helping me put it together. I think we can call that one complete.
Council is they were very complimentary. Thank you all who participated in that.
All right, thank you. Next up, Dave, we still have any updates on rain garden maintenance?
Quick update on the rain garden for everybody's information. There's a rain garden adjacent to the parking lot at the Heritage Center. It's kind of all overgrown with weeds and things. And the idea was to get somebody here to take a look at it and see if it's, operating as it should be, or whether we need some maintenance or some landscaping work done on it. Been in touch with Donna Raddick, who's a Penn State Master Gardener and local rain garden expert. Finally got a meeting set up with her, myself, and either Jeff Schoeneman or one of his foremans, probably on Friday morning. Dawn, I didn't know if that's something that is of interest to you, or you just want to sit that one out, or trying to figure out things that you can,
I'm happy to help with it. When did you say is the meeting?
uh,
Friday?
Friday morning,
At what time?
maybe 9-ish or so.
I might be able to do that. I'll
Okay,
have to let you know.
all
I don't
right,
know my work schedule off the top of my head, but I think.
okay. So we're gonna meet to try to talk about what we might be able to do to bring it back to life, or maybe it's operating, as it should be with all the weeds and everything. It just, to me, it doesn't look like it does when it was first installed, but anyway. The idea is to get some volunteer labor to, if, let's say, we need weeds pulled or something like that, to, again, get the Key Club involved from North Allegheny and see if some of the kids can help out with that. Maybe Public Works would take away the weeds, and maybe some mulch needs to be brought in. I'm not sure. So that all is to be determined, but at least that's moving along, and it's according to Don, it's definitely a fall activity. So that's the update on that.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you following up on that and setting all that up. Moving on to community outreach. Dave, we're back to you again. Was there any update on
the scouts? I
project?
did talk to Shelley's neighbor, Gary Robertson, about the Eagle Scout projects. We have two things going on. One is the rain garden maintenance that I just talked about. The other is we have stickers that basically talk about stickers that get stuck onto the catch basins on the roads that have been newly paved. That talk about, that say that the catch basin drains to a waterway, and don't throw your oil and that kind of stuff into the catch basin. But anyway, both of those are not the type of projects that Gary was looking at for Eagle Scouts. So just kind of a general announcement, if anyone has ideas on Eagle Scout type projects, basically the scout has to kind of plan it, organize it, carry it out. If there's funding, get funding for it. It's kind of a soup to nuts type activity for the scout, and with not a lot of supervision. So I didn't know if there's maybe something might come up in terms of the Wall Park trails down there, signage.
When we have a trail. When
Yeah.
there's a trail there, we'll have plenty of things.
Yeah,
for people to do.
Well, plenty of things. Okay, so that's what I did mention that to Gary, that we had, a grant in the works for that. Just if anyone else has any.
Do we have to have funding, or do we just need to have ideas for these Eagle Scouts?
Ideas at this point, I think.
Because, Potter Park has so much potential. I think there's only one bench there. And I know there's a Boy Scout group that cleans the park and maintains the trails, but
Right.
trail maintenance, forging new trails, bench building, there's a pond up there. I don't know, that could be an interesting thing, like testing the water quality and maybe doing improvements to the pond. I mean, there's a lot of potential, I would think,
Okay,
for things at Potter Park. I'll come up with a list for these kids.
okay. I know the scouts use the park, use Potter Park. I
Mhm.
think they've, I know they've cleaned up litter up there
Yep.
before. And on the roadway that goes up to it from West Ingomar, but yeah, it would be more of a larger type project than just cleaning up,
Yeah,
either build something or
Yep.
that kind of thing.
do like bird boxes or other kinds of things in the park.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of, I think, so much potential for Potter Park.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I think at one time we talked about North Park. Is there's either a waiting list, there's a whole list of projects in North Park that are,
Ooh, we could copy
is that something that you talked about, Ken, or not? Maybe I'm hearing it from somebody else. Okay. I didn't know if there were a a lot of projects in North Park, or a lot of scouts that were looking for projects in North Park, but anyway. Cancel that. Anyway, nothing immediate in terms of scout involvement, but I touched base with Gary. He's very enthusiastic about things that the EAC does, and involving the scouts as much as we can. So that was a good contact.
Thank you. Thanks for following up with them. Jeff, has there been any, I know this has been hanging out there for a little bit, NAEC with their ideas for speaker events. Is there any update on that?
Yeah.
Or, oh, is
yeah.
there? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So, yeah, I've been going back and forth with Beth Dutton at the NAEC. So she gave me a bunch of different things. I have a whole list of some of the activities that going through there. A lot of them are just like virtual meetings and stuff that they have on a weekly, monthly basis. She did give me a list of things that we could participate in. I will, I guess, mention them. I don't know if we have to formally vote on them to do them, or we'll get through as we go to that point. So you can let me know how we need to do that if that's the case. So a couple of things of interest that she put out to me, and I said, yes, I'd be interested in this, this, and this. So there was 3 of them. The first one is their annual meeting. They're doing a lawn to nature presentation. Will be a Zoom. So obviously it'll be on November 16th. They asked me if we'd be interested in participating. I said, absolutely. And then something that we can advertise to our residents to participate. So if that can be done, that'd be pretty cool. And the second thing is what they call an Irwin hike. It can be done for all McCandless residents. And it's slated right now for January 8th or January 15th. That is an in-person hike. So
Is that Irwin Road there?
Yeah.
That Irwin Road?
Yep.
in
Yep.
North Park, okay.
And then the third thing that we kind of went forward would be, we still have to talk about how we're going to do that based on, based on the COVID protocol for the rest of this year and into next year, is the streamscapes. And that was again with Mary, who did the stream walk with us.
Mhm.
So she had sent me this big long email again about that, which sounded really neat. If we would do it hypothetically in March of 22, it would be on a Zoom basis, I guess, just because of how early it is in the season. If we do it April or May, they could actually do it on someone's property and do it in person. And also too, the township could qualify for MS4 credits for that as well. So, and that is for the water management. I guess the township gets credit for water management projects and things of that nature. So obviously twofold, that's a very, very interesting topic and a couple neat things. So those were the 3 that kind of I drew my attention to that seem worthwhile.
Mhm.
And of course, Mary's got me and then Beth on their slate for anything that they come up with.
Okay.
They would have to do with stream walks, water shedding, things of that nature that they do on a normal basis anyway.
The first one, the annual meeting, the lawn to nature. So what is that, they're doing a presentation in the middle of a meeting, or is that going to be like a recorded program that we could participate in? How would that?
They have 2 guest speakers. I can read the email. 2 guest speakers from Latadamie Nature Center at North Park.
Lotadami, yeah.
Huh?
Autonomy.
Is that how you say that? Okay.
Yeah, autonomy.
Will speak on their lawn to nature program that they will kick off in the spring. And then the NAEC will share the meeting invitation with us and then any of the residents. So I guess there's 2 speakers on the Zoom call that will reference that program.
Kind of depends on when the speakers are, because I don't think people are going to want to sit through their annual meeting.
That was kind of my.
Yeah, so
My
she
question.
said the presentation starts at 7 p.m. So yeah, I agree. So I can find out more information on that and then we could
certainly share that.
well, if I get the details that we can share, we can put that out not only to us, but also the residents. So how we do that, I'm not sure. I'm sure that goes back to.
As long as everyone says it's okay, I can just send it out.
Yeah. Okay, as long as that's okay. I don't know if we have to formally vote on that or pass that or however we do that, but that would be obviously the first one, which is a little more than a month away. And then we have some time for the hike. That's slated for either the Saturday, January 8th or the 15th, 10 a.m. to noon. And they say everyone meet at North Park Beaver Shelter. There they do an out and back hike on the Irwin Road. And, they talk about stuff and a chance to look around the valley and then go from there.
Still deer season.
Yep. And so some of the main topics with that she had given me in the outline too was talk about the use of wetlands for flood management, sedimentation problems in the lake, and other topics that the park goes through, on a yearly, annual, and situational basis. So to me, that was obviously, well, it's right here for one, and obviously of interest to myself.
Is when that's that whole one arm of the lake is off there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the other one is the streamscapes. That would be Mary Wilson would lead that. And then the goal there is to review landscaping ideas for those with streams on their properties to both protect. Now, again, when we did that, the stream walk before, I think that was something that really moved to the forefront with everyone's attention and interest, including mine. So when I saw that, that was definitely something I said, yeah, we'd be very interested in doing that.
Okay, Shelley, do you think these type of projects would fall under the speaker series project approval that we have, or are these?
Oh, no, I think they do. I think they do fall under it, and I think that it's up to the EAC to determine if they are relevant and prioritize them, because I made a note while you guys were talking is, for example, we had talked about, as far as the speaker series, is putting together something that was educational about the coal tar, which we were supposed to do, via council's direction. And I think that was not a singular thing. It was maybe something that was linked with other potentially dangerous household, yard, garden, chemical stuff.
Right, and I did reach out to several people trying to get some help with tar, and did not get responses on for that.
I think it's a matter of about the EAC prioritizing what they think are the most important topics, because obviously the problem is, it's not like we can have a speaker series weekly. So if you assume best case, which I think it kind of is, considering we're partnering with the library and dealing with timing and, all those things, that what is the best case, Judy? 4 times a year, quarterly?
That was the original. That was the original.
That's what I thought.
So we're going on. The last one was in February. So
no, I understand that. I understand, but we had COVID and everything, so it's been a weird time. But my best advice would be that, and I don't think that those weren't worthy topics at all that was talked about, but I think that maybe that should be a topic the EAC could discuss, is in terms of our speaker series and getting back online with at least the proposition of a quarterly speaker series. What would be our priorities?
And we had a list, and I need to get back to them, and we'll get on that.
Something for the next meeting or something.
Right, in order to follow through with the things that Jeff has gotten from NAEC.
Absolutely.
Do we need to do any additional project forms for that, or can
No,
we?
I don't think so.
Okay, That was,
No, I think that unless I would never, I think that project form was fairly broad and the only has, because, you guys, I'm only going to be here through the end of the year. But my advice would be, I think that you have you've proven yourselves and you have the latitude to have an agenda. And I would still caution if you think it's a contentious item or could be contentious or could be debatable. And one I would, like tonight, I don't know that I would go off and do a speaker series on single-use plastic bags on your own without, letting council know and, but I think these kinds of things are exactly what the EAC was formed to educate about.
okay. I'd say,
I don't know if these are really speaker series topics.
They're-
So I agree, and that's why I think you're going.
I think maybe the last one potentially, but I'd like for you and I to kind of talk a little bit about the logistics of these.
Okay.
And I can kind of tie them into what I learned with some of the speaker series things, and we'll figure out the best way to get
Yeah, and I
these
think
out.
the first one too, if it's an interest, we definitely need some more information. Like Ken
Right.
said, like
Right,
if it is a Zoom call, how many people are going to be, topics are going to be there because we experience it ourselves.
right,
And when is that actually going to be on so we can advertise if people are interested to
right.
come on at this particular time and et cetera.
Okay,
My recommendation would be to, now that we're working in a world of at least hybrid, Zoom in person, and we know how to do it, by the way, we've learned how to do it, is I think the next priority is to kind of sit down and put down, in my opinion, you should put your list of what are the 10 types of things that the EAC committee could do speaker series on, and then discuss what are the priorities, what are the most important of those, and spend your time instead of going off on, all kinds of, spreading your wings over 20, distill it into what do we need for the next year and half of the following year in prioritized form. That would be my recommendation.
I think we would also see, and again, I don't know how many people have come to the speaker series events, but if they were somewhat seasonal and relevant to what's going on,
mhm,
obviously kind of Christmas, maybe if we had something, not Christmas, related to winter, I guess is kind of what I'm thinking, and when spring rolls around or something, but for what it's worth, I have a lot of speakers that I've used in my classes. Some of them, they kind of range the gamut, they're all over the place, but I could speak about, renewable energy or sustainability in some extent if that's a topic that we're interested in. And then we have a number of professors that I know personally that I'm sure if we had areas in maybe environmental science or something like that, I could pull in as well. So if we do come up with a list, and I'm happy to work on the list with you if you like, but yeah, I can help out with that.
well, then maybe that's something we'll move to topics for next month, not necessarily what you've got going on, Jeff, but to bring that back up. I'm going to go back and pull the list of ideas that we were working on when COVID hit, basically. And just for, recap, unless if you hadn't been to any of our speaker series events, they started out as being in-person events here. And we did these in conjunction with the Northland Library. They helped us with publicity. And then when we started moving towards Zoom, they facilitated the Zoom hookups and moderators and that sort of thing. So I need to get back in touch and see if we still have the same contact at the library, because they were really able to open it up. So we went from a handful of folks at the first speaker event to the last couple we had, we were more like 100 people.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your
So-
one, we had all 200 spots taken.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
very
did.
nice. Oh, good.
So it's the collaboration with the library has been great as far as the because we publicize it through our methods, but they have their whole network of folks and they put it on their website, and it worked out really well. So Shelley's right, we need to get that back up and moving. So
Is there like a kind of an ultimate, I don't know, a vision or a goal for this, or is it just kind of topics that we think are
well,
relevant or interesting?
it started with Angela. That
Yeah.
was her baby, and she
Okay.
had a list, and I still have her that she was working with.
Okay.
And she was kind of working down her list, but obviously that's been several years. So,
Yeah, okay.
and since then we've thrown some topics out, and, you know, as some things came to us, like the deer management.
Yeah.
And we've done tick awareness a
Okay.
couple of times, just because that's been a very highly sought after topic. And something we were able to find a group to help us with during COVID on Zoom.
Yeah.
So our focus is kind of strayed. So as Shelley said, it's time to bring our ideas back in and get us going. So I will put that on the agenda for next month.
Yeah.
So that can be homework for everybody. In the meantime, I'll go back and dig up the lists I had, and maybe even share those, and then we can start discussing and prioritizing and get those moving again. That'd be great.
Yeah, Judy, I would highly recommend that you would, because if you're the keeper of, and it doesn't need to be fancy, but if you're the keeper of just the more or less ad hoc list of potential speaker series topics, because they were created quite some time ago.
They were.
And things have changed and priorities have potentially changed. That I would get them, in my opinion, I would really love it if you have them, if you could get them out to all of us sooner rather than later. And I think it would be great if this committee, because this is what I always fear, is that if you wait a whole month between this meeting and the next meeting, and you do nothing in between except plan to talk about it at the next meeting, then it's really hard to get things done. So if we could get maybe something like that, and if the committee members would be willing between now and next meeting to kind of weigh in on, you know, what they think is important, what they think is relevant, what they think is the day priorities. I think that would give a better start for a serious conversation at next month's meeting.
Okay. Will do. Thanks. All right, moving on. October McMail tips. For Dawn and for Tony, just information. That's something you'll notice. It's in the McMail every month. And we just basically go alphabetical down our roster and take turns providing those. So by our alphabetical list, Jeff, I think you're up next. So.
What's the due date?
I would say October 27th.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think we had the idea, or somebody noted, one of your friends, Dave, that we used to post all those tips on our EAC webpage. So I guess it's been a couple of years since we've updated that. So
I would say, pre-COVID. probably.
yeah. So if you would mind, I guess, updating some of those links, maybe add.
It's on the list.
Great, thanks.
It's on the list.
And I know especially, I'd like to get the coal tar one on there, because that's something that council wanted us to be forwarding the information.
And a lot of times those tips can just be recycled. If it's
Yes.
been like a year or two and you're
Definitely.
like struggling, just go into there and use it as a resource that might trigger some new ideas or repeat the old ideas.
It's going to go out the 29th, Friday.
29th.
29th.
Okay. Trick or treating, and I can do Halloween candy. What to eat and what not to eat.
Yeah, and that's seasonal ones are great. All right, next, I was going to discuss just briefly, and I may just save this for next month, just a plug for EAC's network annual conference. I did this last year. It was a Zoom meeting. They did presentations over, I guess, a morning and an afternoon on a Saturday. It was a nominal cost. but I thought the presentations were excellent. So I do have a link for save the date for February 26th, 2022, and I'll send that information out.
So is the organization called the EAC Network? Is that?
Yes, it is. In fact, here is, if you want to take a look at that,
Oh,
Richard,
sure,
that's
yeah.
and just kind of
okay.
dig in there, and they have some really great information. I thought the speakers were, I thought the information was excellent when I sat through last year. And once one person signs up for it, then we can share the recordings.
Oh,
With
okay,
everybody.
This is a Pennsylvania organization, right?
Yes.
Oh, got it, okay. So-
And what I found out when I attended that is most of the organizations are in the eastern part of the state. I think it was myself and one other representative from
Okay.
a municipality in western Pennsylvania. We were very well represented. So I think that's something we need to work on.
There wasn't a Steelers game that day, was there?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was a Saturday, actually.
Eagles game.
That's late February, so no, we're out of football season.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
I think the last one was in March. All right, and does anyone else have topics for next month? I mean, we will discuss speaker series next month. Anything else? We are running long tonight, but if there's anything else we need to put on the agenda for next month, please let me know. Once again, I'll put the plug in. We have our agenda meeting a week before the EAC meeting, and I will send another reminder out about a week before next month for any reports or ideas or things that need to go on the agenda. All right, Shelley, report from town council.
Oh, I know you want me to say nothing because it's a long meeting.
Cut that to 1 minute.
You've got 1 minute.
I know. But I do, a couple things got off my list during the meeting, but I do have two things. One is not a big deal, but I mean, it was the last, related to the last month's McMail tips. So I just urge whoever reviews it in advance of it getting published, I would just point out that when I read it, it was actually a 99.9% wonderful, good, appropriate submission, except for the fact that it talked about feeding the deer your pumpkins or something. And as I think you all are aware, that, or most of you might be, or maybe not, but still passed an ordinance not so long ago that feeding the deer was illegal in McCandless. So I'm guessing it was something that was very appropriately brought from some source that was talking about, recycling and things. So I'm not trying to make light of it. It was not a big deal.
Shelley, we're allowed to feed birds, right? We're allowed to feed some other
You can
animals.
still feed birds, yes.
If there's, it's allowed that if it's meant for some other purpose and the deer happen to eat it, then.
And it's something, it's not.
And
When
you
you're
are
not
totally,
talking about the ordinance of feeding the deer, we're talking about on a daily basis, putting corn or something out there.
I think you're right, Ken. I think you're right, but it was very clear in the verbiage of this thing that it was like, and the deer, and the deer was like this. So anyway, I'm just pointing out that we did.
None of us covered.
No, none of us did. I know.
Yeah, that's all I'm pointing out. It's not a big deal, in my opinion. Not a big deal. But having said that, whoever is reviewing these submissions from EAC members, let's help out and make sure that they don't inadvertently make a faux pas along the way. The other thing, and I don't want to, I could talk about this for an hour, and I promise you I will not, but I would ask all of you, actually, to, at your leisure, leisure. I know it's not a fun thing, but at your leisure, watch the, oh man, it's hard because there was a problem with the Zoom in the last town council meeting on Monday night. So, oh, no, stop. You can go in to the agenda from the town council meeting from Monday night. And what you will find there, one of the things, and then you can also watch the video presentation that unfortunately was without the PowerPoint presentation of the stormwater utility concept. And I will say, I'm not trying to make this about me, but I do happen to represent a ward that is desperately in need of and affected by stormwater issues that I think that are only going to continue. And so my ask is that this will not, let me say this, this will not be settled, in my opinion, while I am probably still on council. But I think stormwater is an issue that is an important environmental issue that the EAC should have a voice in. And, you know, and now we have Dawn, who actually is, you know, working toward being a stormwater expert. So my ask of you is that you take the time to find that PowerPoint presentation, try to understand what we're talking about, because this was kind of like a stormwater utility fee 101, you know, trying to define ERUs for a community and setting a stormwater fee so that our town could actually take proactive action to not just meet the unfunded mandates of MS4, but to actually be proactive in defining what projects could materially assist in preventing stormwater flooding in a proactive way. And the bottom line is the town does not have a budget that would allow proactive major stormwater projects it's just not affordable. And this is a proposal. I mean, I am the chair of the stormwater management ad hoc committee. So obviously it's important to me. And I'm not trying to, I want all of your independent and, independent opinions, but I'm asking you to read the PowerPoint presentation, listen to the portion of the town council meeting on Monday that address this, because this is something that I think the EAC may want to, let me put it this way, may want to have a voice in. And I think you should educate yourselves, because, you know, I mean, until I spent the last 14 months educating myself in how stormwater fees, stormwater utilities, they call them stormwater authorities, work, I didn't know either. So I would like to put on, I would request Chairwoman Bishop and be very appreciative if you would put on next month's agenda this topic, with the hope that my former colleagues, because I was on the EAC, but all of you might take the time to do a little bit of investigation on this topic, and maybe we could have a conversation and see what y'all think. Not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you that this is coming up with town council. This is an issue in our community, and I think the EAC could have a role in it, or could have a bit of a voice in it. Maybe you don't want to, but at least I think you ought to make that decision if you do or you don't.
Okay. Will do. Put that on the agenda. for
I'm
next
done
month.
with my speech.
Okay. Very positive. Thank you. All right. Anybody else have any comments? We have no public here tonight, so we have no public comments. If there's nothing else to add, then we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I make the motion to
Do
adjourn.
we have a second?
9:43.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
So Judy,
Thank you
you're
for
like.
your